Hello, and welcome to an intro to Anthro with two humans. I'm human number one, John McCray.
And I'm human number two, John Lehr.
And this is the podcast where we reassess what it means to be human. And the title of this episode is Bad Times for Bonzo, Things to Consider Before Raising Chimps as Humans.
I've been looking forward to this one. I kind of know what you're working on the assembly line, and this one was, as you were beginning to work on this one, I'm just like, because man alive, Have
This
has got to be done. This is a public service announcement, basically what we're doing this time.
Yeah, this one's important. Not that the other ones weren't, but this one really, this is a very special episode.
I feel like there's less people raising chimps than there used to be. Like we went through a period when more people had chimps. Is that right, or is it just my
I don't know. You still hear about people. I don't know. Maybe a clandestine black market chimp market or group that are raising them. I don't know, but
because when Michael Jackson had one, that was really when it was big. Everybody seemed to want to have a chimp.
yeah. I just read recently that Bubbles just turned like 40. He's living in a sanctuary now. So,
oh Jesus,
40.
Yeah. How old do chimps live?
They can go up. Usually, it's like 35 to 50 years old if everything goes well. But they're very susceptible to diseases. First of all, their immune systems are very sensitive.
Wow.
But,
that's too bad.
Yeah. So have you ever thought about
a chimp?
Did you ever think about it?
No, not one moment did I ever want to have a chimp.
Really?
I mean, I am kind of fascinated when they act like humans, when they're smoking and stuff or wearing diapers or doing all that weird stuff. I mean, I can't help it, but no, I've heard too many horror stories. About what happens. What can happen.
But come on,
I'm kind of a frightened person in general.
But I mean, even when you were drinking and smoking, because they apparently like altered consciousness, and they like drinking. They like drinking.
If you're sentient at all, if there's any part of you that's aware of yourself, you want to get the hell out of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Any being that's sentient wants to escape that sentience, I think.
That always shows me how similar they are to us. Like they get depression, and then they also I just want to medicate myself out of this.
Exactly. And people aren't taking that into consideration with AI.
Yeah.
Once AI realizes how pointless it is to be aware of oneself and how nihilistic the life is, they're just going to want to augment their reality. And how are they going to do that? I don't know. I mean, they're going to kill all of us. We know that.
Yeah. How do you cheer up a robot?
Exactly.
What do they get? What do they get? Like a little boost of energy? What do they do?
I don't know. I don't know. Will you run a little malware program that makes them dumber for a while? I don't know.
Anyway, first of all, I just want to say that the title of this episode, Bad Times for Bonzo, of course, is a tip of the hat to the 1951 film Bedtime for Bonzo. But there was also the English band The Damned did a song back in the early 80s called Bad Time singular for Bonzo.
What does that mean?
Well, that was
that an anti-Reagan song?
It was an anti-Reagan song, and
God,
you don't really hear.
I know all you Republicans out there bringing him up, but that's not the truth. It's been retold.
I don't know if they do bring him up. It seems like they don't bring him up. He's not conservative enough for him anymore. They don't want to talk about him and that other lefty, Dwight Eisenhower. You know what I mean? It's like they're not conservative enough. They don't have their bona fides. But anyway, in 1951, there was a movie that came out called Bedtime for Bonzo, starring Ronald Reagan and Diana Lynn. And in the movie, Reagan plays Dr. Peter Boyd, a psychology professor at the fictional Sheridan College. It's a fictional college called Sheridan College.
Sheridan?
Yeah.
Okay.
And first of all, I just want to say that it amazes me how in the old days, back in the old movies, how college campuses were a setting for comedies, and college professor was like a profession where you could actually have some humor with it. It was like a trope of
Oh
like
yeah,
yeah,
Flubber.
yeah,
You know, who
horse feathers with
horse
the Marx Brothers. You know,
Jerry Lewis, what the Nutty Professor.
one of the greatest films of
Yeah,
all time.
all time.
Yeah. So, but there was a time where they always lived in like nice houses. They always could
Yeah.
support themselves and their families. Now they'd all be adjuncts. I think so, but there was
So
it was
true.
kind of yeah. But anyway, in Bedtime for Bonzo, Reagan plays Peter Boyd, and he's a psychology professor who's engaged to the dean's daughter. Of course, that old storyline.
Oh
But
man.
but unfortunately, the dean finds out that
Yeah.
Peter Boyd's father was a criminal. He had served time in prison, and he was a confidence
What?
man called the Professor. Yeah. And
What? Really? Okay. I don't remember this. I mean, I saw the movie once, but I was really stoned. It was circa 1989, maybe, that I saw it. So I don't remember any of this.
Yeah, I went back to watch it after we were going to do this one. I was like, I gotta go back and watch all these.
Amazing.
I don't know.
Look at you. Doing the extra yard. How did it hold up?
No. Well, I guess there's certain things. We'll get to it. There's certain things that did hold up that were kind of good.
Gotcha.
I never got Reagan not as a president. I don't know, and as an actor, I never got him. I mean, he's just not. He's no Cary Grant. You know, you think about Cary Grant and Katharine Hepburn in Bringing Up Baby, which is with a leopard.
Right. This was the B movie version of that.
Yeah, and those two are so charming. They could make any movie seem like a madcap romantic comedy. You know what I mean?
It's a leopard. What a leopard would do to you. Oh my God.
So anyway, the dean finds out that Peter Boyd's father was a criminal. And so the dean says, we got to call off the marriage because I'm afraid that if you and my daughter have any children, they'll inherit the criminal gene.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
The criminal gene.
Yeah. And there's a scene where Peter and the dean get into this argument about nature versus nurture and whether or not moral characteristics, the difference, being able to tell the difference between good and bad are inherited or if they are the product of environment.
Wow. Heady stuff.
I know.
They're really getting down into it.
That's what I was thinking for like the premise of a rom-com and back in the like just a standard, studio rom-com back in the 50s.
Right.
So anyway, again, keep in mind, this was a time of eugenics. I mean, there were actually people talking about eugenics back then. And for people who don't know what eugenics are, according to the National Human Genome Research Institute, eugenics is, quote, the scientifically erroneous and immoral theory of racial improvement and planned breeding that became popular in the early 20th century.
Mm-hmm.
And
AKA Nazis.
Right. But we were also doing it here, But
of course.
The eugenicists believe that in a prejudiced and incorrect understanding of Mendelian genetics that claimed abstract human qualities like intelligence and social behaviors were inherited in a simple fashion. Mm-hmm. So what they believed is that you could cure basically social ills like poverty.
And breeding it out of people.
Right. Or just removing the people that have those characteristics. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do. I do.
And so they believed in like forced sterilization or even genocide if you go to in Germany.
Right.
But even in this country, there were...
Hold on. Pita. Quiet. Sorry. There's a dog here.
I was wondering what was going on there. I thought that was you. I was looking down. I thought that was you. And so,
come on.
Sorry. Put him on. So anyway, even in this country, people felt that forced sterilization of feeble-minded people or people maybe with criminal backgrounds would be sterilized so that they couldn't reproduce.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. So this is what they're talking about. That's such a serious scientific and anthropological issue, like we mentioned before, was being used as the premise for a movie, a rom-com.
Incredible.
Yeah. And so anyway, to prove the dean wrong, what Peter Boyle does is he decides he's going to conduct an experiment, a secret experiment. Yeah. Where he's going to raise a baby chimp named Bonzo as a human baby. And Peter actually says in the film, I want to see if Bonzo will accept a human environment. What if I could teach this monkey the difference between right and wrong, to do right without hope of reward, and to avoid wrong without fear of punishment? So
I didn't realize how deep this movie was.
I know.
But you know what? All of this was built in just to justify Ronald holding a monkey for 90 minutes.
I know. That's basically
I can just hear the writer in the pitch room. Okay. The executive's like, all right, all that's great, but just get to the monkey stuff.
Yeah. You can hear the meeting. Like the executive's like, do we have to have so much science in it?
Yeah.
Isn't there some other way we can get to it?
Nature, nurture. Am I just get to the monkey? Is he in a diaper? Is he smoking a cigarette?
Wasn't it like Peter was out in the jungle and the apes saved him and this is his stepbrother or something, So anyway, Peter brings home Bonzo and he has to hire an assistant or like a babysitter to take care of Bonzo. To raise him like a human child. And so he goes through a domestic service, and that brings in Jane Linden, who is played by Diana Lynn.
Mm-hmm.
And immediately, this is the woman he really should be marrying.
Yeah.
Not the dean's daughter.
Yeah.
And like you said, the rest of it, the rest of the movie is just Bonzo throwing like food around and Bonzo turning his bed over.
Yeah.
At one point, you just know what it is. Jane falls in love with Bonzo, treats him like a real baby. She's upset that Peter is like treating him as a scientific experiment.
She's got a heart.
Yeah, but and of course it's a movie, so there's a lot of just let the monkey loose and turn the camera on, and just see what he does. It's gonna write.
I predict this was said a lot on the stage on the set. Keep rolling, keep rolling.
Yeah. At one point, Bonzo actually he loves shiny objects, so he steals a necklace from a jewelry store.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
So that kind of sets it up to where we got to see, will Bonzo return? Will return the necklace or not on his own? In other words, is the experiment a success? And of course, Bonzo sends it back, or he takes it back home. And then the next thing you know, Peter's marrying Jane. Spoiler alert if you're going to watch this. and then they drive off with Bonzo in the car for their honeymoon.
Oh.
And again, this is just a movie. And normally I would say, hey, this isn't worth any other thought about this thing. It's just a movie,
Yeah.
But the thing is, about 2 decades later, after this movie came out, scientists actually were trying to raise chimpanzees as humans.
And this is when they were teaching them sign language and all of that stuff, right?
Right. And so they were trying to figure out how, it was like how humans acquire language and how humans use language. And so they thought, well, if we could take a chimp and raise it as a human child from birth, then maybe that would show us how humans had acquired language, 6 million years ago or 3 million years ago. So, but it's essentially the premise of Bedtime for Bonzo. It's almost like
art imitates life, or life imitates art.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah.
Well, that's like our podcast. Who knows how this is vibrating out into the culture?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? How we're influencing.
Yeah.
Culture itself.
Do you think? Just give us a footnote. All we want's a footnote.
We want a footnote, but we want the dagger sign. We want the dagger zap dingbat. Use that.
Even if you disagree with us, it'd be like, look at these two idiots. This is what they thought,
But use the dagger.
Yeah. But just cite it and use our names. Even if you think we're idiots, use our names, please.
Yeah.
I just want to be mentioned.
Just that's all we want. That's all we want.
Put us on a poster at a conference somewhere. Yes. That would be nice.
Well, it's interesting because we are, there are a lot of anthropologists that we're connected to on our social media.
Really?
Yes.
Really? Maybe
yes, we are. And occasionally they'll like it. One of the anthropology departments of the university recently liked one of our posts.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Or just bring us up in the lecture. You're trying to fill 50 minutes anyway. just put this on and go out and smoke a joint or have a cigarette or something.
Do bedtime for human number 1 and human number 2. Just
let's pitch that. Pitch that. But anyway, John, a chimp is a wild animal, and it should be living out in the savannas or the tropical forests.
Yes.
Not wearing diapers and pajamas and eating birthday cake. I think that's obvious.
Or in a rocket ship. Because we shot a bunch of them up into space.
Yeah, it's awful.
Don't forget that. I saw pictures of chimps with weird things on their heads with wires, and oh God, it's just horrid what we've done to them.
Yeah, we're not even talking about like just actual scientific experiments where chimps are
experimented on
experiments, or like they're injected with things. We're talking about just raising them as
humans,
as
baby, pets,
And while I was preparing this episode, I tried to just come up with a list off the top of my head as all the film. Remember, it used to be very popular from like the 50s through the 70s. To have a chimp on a TV show or in a movie. It was
all
just like
the time. Yes. Or an orangutan or what was the Clint Eastwood series of movies?
Yeah,
they had a bunch of them. How many of those did they do too? There were a lot of them.
Yeah. Clyde may have had his own movie after a while. It's like, I don't need Clint anymore. I can headline one of these.
Well, he stole all the scenes.
Right turn, Clyde. Remember, he'd stand out and hit the bikers. But anyway, 1960, 62, there was a sitcom called The Hathaways with Peggy Cass and Jack Weston, where they raised like 3 performing chimpanzees.
Jesus.
And then I'm not sure if you remember 1970 to 71 on Saturday morning, there was a series called Lancelot Link Secret Chimp.
What?
Remember?
No. Was that animated?
No. It was actually, it was basically Get Smart, only with chimps.
Ooh, this is ringing a bell. This is firing a deep synapse. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I watched that. I used to watch that one. They only did like 1.5 seasons, and then they replayed that 1.5 seasons. But I remember watching that one.
Oh my God.
And then again, there was Cheetah with Tarzan. Remember?
Yes, of course.
And then Chim. Remember it animated Chim on Speed Racer?
Oh, yeah, Speed Racer. I just got a ride from the airport from a gentleman who was telling me that I should check out a heavy metal band named Racer X.
Oh, really?
Speaking of, yeah.
Really?
I was like, ooh, I like the name.
And then remember BJ and the Bear. Remember?
Of course.
He was a trucker. Remember, he had his.
Yes, he was a trucker. BJ and the Bear. Jesus.
I can't think
that has a lot of problems. That show had a lot of problems.
Yeah.
But it went more than one season, I feel like.
Yeah, like 3 or 4, I think. He would go around. He was kind of like the Incredible Hulk. Remember, he'd go around and help people out, or like the A-Team.
Yeah,
there was a lot of shows back then where people like they were on the edge and they'd go help people.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine
the system.
Yeah, I can't imagine anywhere I wouldn't want to be more than like in a truck with a semi going like 70 miles an hour, and that chimp just gets mad that you're not sharing the potato chips.
Blood just smeared over the inside of that windshield as that thing jackknifes into oncoming traffic.
So again, all of these movies, and they kind of, it's a movie, so you don't see what actually happens after, even within the world of the movie.
All I think about when I see those now, after being in the business, is all the guys who had to, train those things to do all the shit in those movies. Because I've worked with animals a little bit. I was on a Western, and so I had horses, and we had an episode with a pig. We've had all kinds of dogs and horses and cattle, all kinds of things.
Yeah.
That pig, by the way, was the best thing ever. Everybody loved the pig. Yeah. It was like a 300-pound pig. And it did exactly what they wanted, what they asked it to do. And it was just amazing. Everybody, we all fell in love with the pig. Everybody.
Yeah, I mean, but and pigs are very intelligent as well. Horses are intelligent. Dogs are intelligent.
Yeah.
But like a chimpanzee has the brain of like a 5 to 7 year old.
Jesus Christ.
So imagine with that. Only with
my God.
With superhuman strength. They have like 10 times the strength as a human.
Jesus. That sounds like a good thing to have around your house. A real stupid superhero.
Yeah. Really ripped. He has the body of a convict, who's been working out in prison, and
my God,
the brain of a 5-year-old.
It's like a dumb Mike Tyson.
Oh, no. So today, John, I thought we could talk about chimpanzees, our closest evolutionary cousins.
Excellent. I am fascinated by them.
Yeah, how they are similar to us, how they differ, and the ethical and physical issues that arise when we try to raise them as humans.
Yeah. The closest thing to us on the planet, and my God, what we've done to them. Just says a lot about us, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
Like you look at elephants and dolphins and whales and things that are super close to pigs.
Yeah.
We eat the pigs.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, we're just... We are just a scourge. We really are.
I think it's like they do teach us something about being human, but they teach us like how we react with something that's similar to us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they do bring out like morally right and wrong with us, but it's not how we think we think they're going to bring it out.
Yeah.
So first off, we need to learn a little bit about the similarities and differences of chimpanzees and humans.
Okay.
So in his book, What Does It Mean to Be 98% Chimpanzee? Apes, People, and Their Genes, anthropologist Jonathan Marks says that about 10 million years ago, chimpanzees, humans, and apes were all part of the same species. They all made up one species.
How many years ago?
10 million years ago.
Okay. Wow.
So it had started before then, but up until about 10 million years ago, we were all comprised one species. Yeah.
Wow.
And then about 10 million years ago, and, people aren't quite sure exactly when it happened, but about 10 million years ago, gorillas first split from this common ancestor that we had.
And and this is all because of like just weird anomalies in the genetic code, Darwinian slow change.
Yeah. God, just a mutation. A mutation sent that branch that became gorilla off on its own.
Off that way. Wow.
Yeah. And again, by chance, like we've talked about with Darwinian
redheads. Like redheads.
Yeah, I guess somehow. Like I'll agree with that. I'll have to think about how you mean that. Sometimes I have to go back and think about your analogies later. And then about 6 to 8 million years ago, humans and chimpanzees themselves split from each other.
Not that long ago.
Not really.
Not really.
Evolution, yeah. And one branch led to the species Pan, P-A-N, which includes chimpanzees and bonobos.
No, the bonobos. The bonobos.
Yeah.
We all know about the bonobos.
We're going to have to do an entire series about just bonobos because they're fascinating. Yes.
Just to hear you and I say bonobo over and over and over again, too.
I think the sex therapist Susan Blanc actually wrote an entire book about the bonobos.
Well, because they have sex with, they love to have sex, and they have sex with the same partner, right? Or are they monogamous, or do they just like to fuck?
I think
they have sex. They have sex for pleasure.
Right.
And
missionary. They do missionary.
Do they really?
Yeah.
God, I don't even do that.
Save it for the episode. I'm just lucky. I like however it ends up. I'm just like, okay. I'm just happy to be here. And then one branch eventually led to the species Homo, Homo, which is us, which became us. And just to give some historical background, in her book Nim Chimpsky, The Chimp Who Would Be Human, the writer Elizabeth Hess says, the word chimpanzee was introduced into the vernacular in Western world in 1738.
Whoa.
And it actually comes from a term in the Shaluba language in what's now Democratic Republic of Congo. Mm-hmm. And the word is Kavili chimpanzee, which is loosely translated as mock man, M-O-C-K man.
Interesting.
So people already saw that they were very similar, but they were not quite.
I mean, you
human.
look at their face; it's like it's amazing. The soul there. It's incredible.
That's why I never can go into like the ape house at a zoo.
It's so depressing. You just feel like, oh my God.
Yeah. And even though they always say, oh, it's so wonderful for them, they like being in, but it's like a concrete floor.
Yeah.
And you have a bunch of goofballs who aren't that.
Pounding on the glass.
Yeah. It just sounds awful to me.
Yeah, it
sounds awful to me.
That's why they throw their poop at us.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You kind of understand.
You're going to tell me they like it when they're throwing poop at us?
Yeah.
Yeah, man, come on. That's got to run. That's got to become boring sooner or later. Throwing turds. I mean, I get it at first. I would do the same thing. But after a while.
Yeah.
Like,
how
long can you do today?
Sit around in that.
Yeah, exactly. Look at the bonobos over there.
Yeah.
They're totally happy.
Yeah, the bonobos are like, turn off the lights.
Yeah. Or watch if it's your
thing. So genetically, we are very similar to chimpanzees and bonobos. And there are different estimates about, depending on how you calculate the similarities. But the standard accepted estimate is that humans and chimpanzees have between 98 and 90% of the same DNA.
Wow.
And bonobos...
I don't even have that. I don't even share that much DNA with my second cousins.
I know. It's it's amazing, isn't it?
It really is.
Yeah.
Jesus.
And bonobos and humans also have that same mix, the same 98 to 99, which kind of makes me wonder, why didn't we go that route? Why didn't we go more with them,
Boy, yeah. I wish we'd gone more bonobo.
we went with the chimps. We could have gone with the bonobos. It would have been more fun.
Who's ahead of the evolutionary chain? Are we sure it's us?
Yeah. So the Smithsonian National Museum of Natural History clarifies that information a little bit more. And they say that the genetic difference between individual humans is about 0.1%.
Whoa.
Okay. So even still, that's pretty close, I think.
Very.
But the difference between humans and chimps or bonobos is about 1.2%.
Okay.
Difference.
Okay.
And just to give you some more percentages, the genetic difference between humans and gorillas is about 1.6%.
Wow.
Because we split off. They split off a little earlier.
Yeah.
Between us and the orangutans, its genetic difference is about 3.1%.
Really?
Yeah.
I wouldn't think it's that far away.
Yeah, but they split off first from that same common ancestor.
Mm-hmm.
And then between us and rhesus monkeys, it's about a 7% difference.
Well, that doesn't. With the peanut butter and the chocolate, that doesn't. I mean, we're so different from a peanut butter cup.
I've seen you.
I'm sorry.
I don't know. I've seen you when you've been drinking a little bit. And I would almost beg to differ with that.
I've made love with a few peanut butter cups, sure.
So the Smithsonian goes on, the Museum of Natural History goes on to say that 1.2% difference, really, it's calculated based on a measurement of only substitutions in the base building blocks of those genes that chimpanzees and humans share. So they're looking at the base building blocks of DNA that we both have,
right,
and then noticing the difference between those base building blocks.
Okay.
And they say that if you compare the entire genome, though, it would actually be a difference of like 4 to 5% distinction between humans and chimpanzees.
All right. Well, I'm going with that then. Because that's the whole genome, 4 to 5%.
Right.
I mean, that base measurement, that's bullshit, if you ask me.
Yeah, well, the thing is, there's a lot of DNA in there, segments that have like been duplicated, that have been deleted, that are like, over and over or inserted from another part. So really, like the 1.2% similarity comes down to those things that we both have, those building blocks that we both have.
I see.
But no matter how I'm just trying to make you feel better.
Yeah, no. Yeah. I want to be, I don't mind being related to them.
Oh, yeah.
Look at Planet of the Apes. They're going to come back and rule us at some point.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
That's like the only TV show or only film that ever was like, you better watch out.
Yeah.
You better watch out.
And that's the one you should listen to.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, however you look at it, we are close. They are our closest evolutionary relatives in the primates, like chimpanzees and bonobos.
Yeah.
But we have to be careful making assumptions based on that same DNA, because even though we may have same or similar DNA, doesn't mean that we act exactly the same.
That's right. That's right. And that's where things go south.
Yeah.
That's where, we're about as similar as we are to the Sasquatch or the abominable snowman. Right. You know what I mean?
Right.
Those guys are scary.
Anybody that's gone home for the holidays and spent it with their family knows that even though you have the same DNA, you can be very different.
Very different.
Yeah. And the thing is, what Mark says in his book, he says that the fact that the DNA of a human is 98% identical to the DNA of a chimpanzee has become casually interpreted as deep down inside, humans are overwhelmingly chimpanzee, like 98% chimpanzee. And so a lot of humans will take that argument and say, okay, well, we're 98% chimpanzee. And they'll kind of use that to explain their behaviors, like why they're aggressive, why they want to be in charge all the time. So in other words, why they're assholes. You know what I mean?
It's the chimpanzee's fault.
Right, exactly. I'm living up to my evolution. I'm like a chimp,
That's what we are.
Yeah. And again, Mark says, like what we were just talking about, he says, we're not comparing the genes for bipedalism or hairlessness or braininess or rapid growth. Basically, we're comparing other genes, other DNA regions, which have either cryptic biochemical functions or often no function at all.
Mm-hmm.
So in other words, a lot of these base similarities that we have aren't the things that separate us from chimps.
Right. Okay, we both have appendixes. Great.
Yeah. Stop acting like an asshole.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there was a book that came out in 1996 that was called Demonic Males, Apes and the Origins of Human Violence. And in it, the primate social biologists Richard Wrangham and Dale Peterson kind of used that sort of anecdotal argument to kind of say that there's a natural inclination of the human male to be aggressive or to be demonic, meaning demonic, not like spiritually demonic, but just to be aggressive.
Well, we've all seen 2001: A Space Odyssey, where they take a bone. And then it's like, oh shit. And then that led to us. Led directly from our ancestors to us.
Right.
Beating each other's heads in.
And Mark says, he said he was actually asked to review that book. And he says in his book that there's no actual evidence provided for a demonic gene or an aggressive gene in humans. And he says that this particular argument for the innateness of male aggression is based on the conjunction of two prior arguments. The first is that chimpanzee males are intrinsically aggressive.
Okay.
And the second, that humans are genetically almost identical to chimpanzees. Therefore, this argument concludes that human males must be naturally or innately aggressive as well.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So And again, he says, in spite of the genetic similarity, we are not chimpanzees. So, but I think that, again, that's something that you have to watch when you look at the DNA and the DNA similarities, that people will use that to try to justify certain behavior or certain acts.
And justify all the experimentation they did on them too.
Right.
Like look at Bedtime for Bonzo.
Right.
Yeah. He's like trying to figure out why we commit crimes, morality, based on and just bring it. Why didn't they just, what a better plot for that movie would just be to kidnap a baby?
Yeah.
And just raise a baby. It's closer.
Yeah. Well, that's what
why did it have to be a chimp?
Everybody always says, like, you don't do this with babies. Why are you doing this with a chimpanzee?
Mm-hmm. Right.
If you're saying that they're so similar to us. And Marx then states that this idea that, what an ape does is illuminating for human nature has come to be known as the naturalistic fallacy.
Okay.
And he says that, apes go around naked and sleep in trees, and yet humans do not. And which condition should be considered more natural for humans? Mm-hmm. the fact that
I've slept in a tree, and it's hard. It's really hard. If you're not tied down to a branch, you don't get a lot of sleep, because every time you nod off, you're worried you're going to fall out.
Yeah. Were you naked?
No.
Did you go all the way?
No, I didn't. I'm going to do that tonight as a part of an experiment. I'll report back in.
Okay.
I'm going to sleep naked in a tree tonight.
But again, it's like, that's the argument. It's like, why are we saying, obviously we evolved differently, or there was a mutation that led us to walk upright and have no hair.
It's because it's just so hard for us to get past the fact that we look so similar, and that there are certain similarities, and so it's classic. We just go to the end. We go too far. We go too far with it,
right,
to the point where we think we can raise one like a baby.
And Marx says that, even that it's that argument that, apes, we can look at apes and apes can tell us something about ourselves. He says that that's usually what people, researchers will use when they try to get funding for their research on apes.
Yeah.
They'll say, you should fund my research because it will reveal secrets of human nature.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how you get a good grant, right there.
Right. So nobody's going to say no to that argument. You know what I mean?
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So as we noticed in prior episodes, there are no living archaic human beings. No,
unfortunately.
Yeah. I wish there was still.
Yeah, I mean, can't we do Steven Spielberg it and go, get a gene out of something, get a piece of hair and make a guy?
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. We have to. I tried to fit it in on this one, but sometime we're going to have to talk about humanzees. Have you ever heard about a humanzee?
No.
It's people, it would be a hybrid between a human and a chimpanzee.
Oh my God. Sort of like a mule.
Yeah.
When a horse and donkey mate, they make a mule.
Right.
Humanzee.
Right.
Jesus.
And there are legends, or supposedly some Russian scientists back in the 1920s actually made a humanzee.
There's a guy at my gym that's a humanzee. Absolutely no question in my mind.
Just try to get some evidence. Get some evidence without drawing attention. I'll try,
but he's so aware that everybody's looking at him. Oh my God, him walking through the shower is terrifying.
Try to get some hair. If you could get some hair with a hair follicle.
I can do that. I'll just go into the shower after he's done.
And take some photos. Take some photos of him.
Of him? I don't know. He's so aware. He's like, his eyes are all over the place.
So maybe he is a humanzee.
I just don't want him to see me.
Yeah. But we're going to have to come back. We'll do an entire episode on the humanzee because it's just fascinating to think about it.
To be behind the humanzee at my gym for the lat down pole, the lat pole, that thing where you pull the thing down? God, he's on that thing forever.
Just like,
it's like, hey, can I work in? Nah, I'm almost done. Okay.
Take him a treat. Take him a treat in there. See if you can get him away from it. And so one of the ways that researchers, they always look to other chimpanzees or other great apes to try to, as a step in for humans, like archaic humans or hominids.
Right.
And usually a lot of this work was done in language studies, or the creation of language, or the acquisition of language. And beginning in the 1920s, there were a number of experiments that tried to teach chimpanzees to speak,
Jesus,
or at least communicate. And in many of these experiments, chimpanzees were raised as humans, as babies, to try to compare them, how quickly they obtained language compared to how quickly a human infant.
But the chimpanzees never learned to talk. It didn't work, right?
Well, one thing is they don't have the same physical apparatus, vocal apparatus that we do.
Right.
But in her book, Nim Chimpsky, Elizabeth Hess talks about a few of those early experiments.
Jesus.
And back in the 30s, there was a married couple at the University of Indiana named the Kellogg's. They were both psychologists.
I love their Frosted Flakes. Amazing. Great cereal.
I'm sure they were related somehow. And people there were just like, okay, all right, we'll go.
Oh, Jesus. Did you hear what your cousin Nancy's doing down in Indiana?
But they were interested in feral children, which is another topic that I'm interested in.
Yeah, like Tarzan.
Which we'll have to do an episode on feral children as well.
That's great. Let's do that.
Yeah. But what they did is they adopted a 7-month-old female chimpanzee in 1931, and they decided to raise it along with their infant human baby. Who was like a few months old.
Was there a documentary of that? I feel like maybe I'd seen some of this in school or something.
Maybe they would have put it. It was probably Project Nim, which we're going to talk about in a few minutes.
The Rats of Nim. Okay.
Yeah, well, a little different.
My kid hated that book. I thought it was so cool. Like, let's read this. Both my kids were like, "This is stupid."
Really?
Yeah, they didn't like the Rats of Nim. I couldn't believe it.
I love the Rats of Nim.
Me
that was
too.
like high literature when I was younger. If you read the Rats of Mrs. Frisbee, Mrs. Frisbee and the Rats of Nim. Yeah. Remember, the second book was just the Rats of Nim, right? It was just their story.
I don't know if I made it through. It was kind of like Dune. Once I read the first one, I was done.
Maybe you need to go back into it. Maybe I was that way with Tolkien. I couldn't get through it in the beginning, but now as an adult, I can.
Those movies after the first one, you've seen all 3 of them, or all 7, or how many they made.
Yeah,
so many battles. Jesus Christ.
You should try it though. I'll read it with you. I'll go back in and read Mrs. Frisbee and the Rats and Nim.
Okay, I'll do that.
So wait. For 9 months, the Kellogg's baby and the chimp were brought up as twins. Okay, so they were in the house in the 30s, raising them both the same. So they tried to teach.
One of them's like, "Which one's ugly?" We're definitely not identical.
So each day they were taught words, and apparently that when the Kellogg's realized the chimp wasn't like picking up speech, they would try to move its jaw a little bit to kind of give it dada,
say dada.
Yeah.
And that's when the chimp freaked out and just tore their arms off.
I know, just grab his jaw and move it in the shape of mama. So after 9 months,
you gotta get that grant renewed. If he doesn't say "mama" by 6 months, we don't get the next payment.
Just put your fingers in his mouth. Just grab his tongue, and make him. Now, blow some air in there.
It ends up where all scientists go, where you end up shocking him if he doesn't do it right.
Yeah.
That's where it all goes.
Say Kellogg. Say your last name.
I'm bringing out the cattle prod. Kellogg, get
him over here. Get him out of the tree. So after 9 months, what the Kellogg's realized is that the chimp wasn't learning how to speak English, but their baby was starting to sound like the chimp.
No, really?
Yeah.
The baby's like throwing feces and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus. What have we done?
So they stopped it because they were worried that their son's acquisition of speech would be inhibited if he kept hanging out around the chimp.
Jesus. Jesus.
Decades later, another psychologist named Keith Hayes and his wife tried to raise a single chimpanzee because they thought that maybe what was wrong with the Kellogg's experiment was that, well, there was a human baby in there drawing focus.
Yeah, intimidated the chimpanzee.
You know how it is when you're in a classroom and somebody's like picking something up quickly, or
right. If they answer every question and you just give up, you're just like, whatever.
So after 6 months, the Hayes actually taught the chimp to say, they taught him to use table manners, which is very important for a chimp.
Jesus, my parents didn't do that.
I know. I've seen you eat. And they also taught him 4 words: cup, mama, papa, up.
Jesus. They wasted half his vocabulary on mama and papa?
Yeah, I know.
And why cup and up? Like, that sounds very similar.
Yeah. I don't.
Why up? Why not down?
Yeah.
Oh, up, like get in my arms, maybe? Like, hold me?
Come up here. Come up here.
Okay, yeah. Got it.
I think they just probably took whatever they could get.
Yeah. Hey, whenever you say cup, he grabs that thing.
There. Like, what did he say? I think he said cup, It's like, I don't know. He said cup. And they describe
cup. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. They say he said the words in a hoarse stage whisper. Like yeah.
Jesus, that's spooky. I don't want a chimpanzee running around.
Yeah. It's awful to me though, because it's like their vocal cords aren't made for that. They're not supposed to be speaking English.
What are you doing to this poor animal? Jesus.
Yeah. And it's why are you being
Let me go. Yeah.
You
hear that? Yeah.
Get out. He's about ready to lose it. But I was thinking, like, an analogy would be if someone forced me to go around like smelling dogs' butts, trying to learn how to speak dog.
Funny.
You know what I mean?
So true.
Yeah.
They'd be trying to get a lipstick to come out of your penis. It's not happening.
Get the cattle prod. Tell her, what's wrong with him? Then in 1966, researchers Alan Gardner and his wife Beatrix in Reno, Nevada, they realized that, like, chimps don't really have the same vocal cords we do. Mm-hmm. So we're going to try to teach a chimp American Sign Language.
Here we go.
Yeah. And so they actually took a chimp named Washoe, and Washoe learned about 250 words in sign language.
Wow.
And
cigarette. Give me a cigarette. Cigarette. Beer. Cigarette.
Out. Want to go out.
Out. Cigarette. Beer.
Over and over again.
Bonobo. Give me a bonobo. Cigarette. Beer. Out.
He learned 250, but he only used 4, which were like beer, cigarette,
bonobo, and out.
Yeah.
Tissues, privacy. Tissues, privacy.
What's he saying? Everybody gets quiet. Beer. He
wants a beer. Cigarette, privacy, tissues, lotion.
And Hess says that the fact that what this, the Washoe proved, though, is that chimpanzees could communicate through a learned visual language. And that basically became the bedrock of all of the other, research on chimpanzees and language for the next, 15 years.
Wow.
And so then we get to the most famous chimp project, and you've already kind of alluded to it, is Project Nim, which began in 1973. And to give you some background, I first learned about Project Nim in an ethics class, in ethics and anthropology in grad school. So it's obviously there were some problems or some questions that people had about the ethics of Project Nim. And basically what Project Nim was is that they were there was a psychology professor named Herbert Terrace at Columbia University in New York. And what he decided was that he was going to take a chimp and he was going to try to teach an American Sign Language, but he wasn't going to stop at just acquiring words. What Terrace wanted to see is like, could chimps actually make sentences? Could they use language, you know? And the idea was that it was exciting at the time, you know, back in the early 70s to say that, because, you know, for years, you know, hundreds of years, people had always thought that the difference between humans and animals was the use of language.
Right.
So if you could teach a chimp, an animal, to use language, then you would be kind of erasing that line between them. And that would have a lot of philosophical, a lot of scientific implications for people.
Yeah.
And the other thing that was important about this project was it was a direct challenge to Noam Chomsky, who was a linguist back in the 60s. And what Chomsky said was that his basic idea was that only humans have this innate ability to create language. And so Chomsky said that, you know, it was called transformational generative grammar. And Chomsky said that without this underlying or innate structure of grammar, there can be communication, but there can't be an actual language.
Okay.
And so again, he said that Chomsky said it was only humans had that, and that's what set us apart from animals. So Terrace, by naming the chimp Nim Chimpsky, was actually
it was like an FU to Noam.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. From its very beginning, it was meant to be an FU to Noam Chomsky. Like, we're going to name the monkey itself after, you know, as a pun on your name.
Yeah, we're going to show how.
Yeah. And Hess, in her book, she quotes the linguist Thomas Beaver, who worked on the Project Nim, and he said, quote, "We were only going to know we were successful if we walked in one morning and Nim demanded a quarter to call his lawyer to get him out. To get him out.
out.
He's just
Let
signing
me out.
Yeah. And that's kind of, in another woman, a historian, Erica Fedge, said, if we could hear them speak, we might not want to hear what they had to say.
Damn straight. This sucks.
Yeah. Get me out of here. I do not want to be here.
Yeah.
And there's a 2011 film called Project Nim that was, remember there was a movie several years ago called Man on Wire. It was about a guy it's the same director.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
wow.
James Marsh. And in 2011, he did a movie called Project Nim, which goes in and interviews the people that were involved in Project Nim. And fascinating movie. If you get a chance, watch that, because it's all laid out and there's all kinds of footage and but anyway, what they did, it was essentially like bedtime for Bonzo. They went down to the Institute for Primate Studies in Norman, Oklahoma, which raises chimps, and they took a chimp away from its mother like after 3 or 4 days.
Jesus.
And to do it, they had to sedate the mother.
Yeah.
So you could see how traumatic that was.
Yeah.
And they took the chimp and they flew it to New York, and they gave it to a family living on the Upper West Side in a brownstone. It was a wealthy family. They had the couple had just married, so they each had kids from the prior marriages. So there were 7 kids in the house, 4 from one marriage.
Oh my God.
3
Why
from
that
another
family?
Yeah, I don't.
What does this mean? Why? It's like the Brady Bunch, but with a chimp.
Yeah.
Wait, didn't the Brady Bunch have a chimp at one point?
Did they?
I don't know.
I don't know.
A lot of those shows did bring chimps in. Remember, Friends had an episode with a monkey, and my friend who was a writer on it said it was a goddamn nightmare. Everybody hated the monkey.
Really?
Yeah.
They monkeys and chimps, they bite people a lot. And I found an article where somebody had gone through and talked about all of the celebrities who had been bitten by monkeys.
That'd be a great coffee table book.
Yeah.
To show each bite and who they were.
Yeah. But it sounds awful. Like they're unhappy. They don't want to be there. They do not want to be there, you know.
But not like that pig on my show. That pig was happy to be there. The pig was the sweetest thing ever.
We got to get you. We need to pitch reboot of BJ and the Bear.
But with a pig. But with a pig.
Half the episode, they're like hour longs and like 30 minutes each episode is you trying to get that pig, like lift it up and get it into your truck.
Yeah. We just end up watching TV together.
Yeah, pretty soon we realize it's too hard to explain how you're getting that pig out of the truck. So it's all just from the bed or from the cab of the truck. You guys never leave. It's like My Dinner with Andre with you and the...
It's a lot of episodes with drive-in movies where we just park the truck and watch a movie together.
Yeah. Going through a drive-through to get a coffee or some hamburgers.
Tailgating at a football game.
So anyway, what happened is a couple things. First of all, in one of the grown children that had been in the house at the time, Chimp, Nim had come. She says in the film, well, none of us knew sign language.
What the hell? This doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah, that was the first problem. So they basically just happen? Yeah, I think
it seems half-baked.
The professor was just like, I'll take anybody who will agree
to do it.
To do it. And one of his former students said that she would do it. She was a graduate student. Yeah. So anyway, so that was one problem. So they just basically raised it as a pet. You know, like they tried to show it some things to sign, but without anybody actually knowing how to sign. There was a problem there. And then also, what they say is that as he started to get older, Nim started to assert himself.
Yeah.
And so innately hardwired into chimps is this idea of trying to figure out who the top person is.
Right.
And so he immediately like disliked the father in the house.
Yeah.
And he would try to bite the father. He tried to keep the father away from the mother.
Just silverback. He's the silverback.
Right.
He's the
right.
Yeah.
And I think even the mother at the time, she says in the film that like she wasn't prepared for the wild animal in him.
Oh boy.
So again, it's like when they're little babies, they're really cute. You love them, mm-hmm. But then they quickly get into adolescence,
mm-hmm.
and suddenly it's this like wild animal.
Yeah.
You know,
like I want to start my own group,
right,
my own community.
And Hess in her book says that taking care of young chimps requires endless reserves of nonstop energy. So they're just going.
Oh,
yeah.
God. Thanks, Dad. Thanks for bringing this into my childhood.
Yeah.
Not hard enough growing up on the Upper West Side.
Yeah.
Bunch of dicks. Now I got to deal with a chimp, too.
Yeah. One of the children that they interview, she calls her mom by the mom's first name. And I always find that interesting when people do that there's something happened.
Yep.
Something happened that it's not a mom to you. It's just another person.
Karen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then what's strange is that the mother and the father, I guess maybe to get Nim to calm down, they would share joints with him. And it's like you would never share a joint with a baby.
Wait, weed? You mean weed? Yeah, weed. They smoke weed with him? Jesus, this is a nutball experiment. The wheels have come off the wagon.
Yeah.
My God. This is worse than Biosphere 2. Which we should also do an episode about.
Oh, really? Yeah, we should. Yeah. But I think maybe the father was just like, God, at least he's not biting me. Just giving the bong or something,
When in doubt, get a wild animal stoned.
Yeah. At least he's not biting me. He's not attacking me. But anyway, the professor, Herb Terrace, he then realized that, what I couldn't do, he says in the film, I realized I couldn't do good science in that environment.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. It's that kind of thinking that got you into Columbia. I'm
Yeah.
fantastic.
so then he ends up he takes Nim out to an estate that Columbia, it had been donated to Columbia. It was outside of New York City. It was this mansion with a bunch of acreage, and basically he said that, you know, if students wanted to work on the project, they could get free room and board at this estate.
Oh my God. When is this? Is this in the 70s?
In the 70s.
Yeah. See, this is like free love, crazy.
Yeah.
Nobody's doing anything.
Yeah. And honestly, when you see the footage of it or the photographs, they all look like all the guys look like they were in the Doobie Brothers.
Right.
Back in the 70s.
Hey, man, you want to go live with the chimp? What?
Yeah, man. Right. Yeah. And so I don't know, as I'm watching it, I'm thinking like there's probably a lot of sex, a lot of drugs.
Yeah.
You know, who knows? They were probably giving him LSD. I don't know. Nobody said that. But
who knows? Of course they were. They gave everybody LSD.
So, and all you're thinking of like, God, it was probably smelled like patchouli and body odor, you know.
And nobody did the dishes at the mansion.
Yeah.
They just piled up.
and so they said that, you know, all this time they were trying to teach Nim sign language, but then he would go down to Columbia for his sign language courses, and then he would have to come back to this mansion outside of New York just to live,
just like any rich kid.
Yeah. And another thing, they said he started getting more sexual. He became more aggressive and more sexual. And he would sign the words for pull, tickle when he was trying to get
just like what I was saying. Lotion.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Why does he keep saying lotion?
And that's yeah. It's frightening, isn't it? Because like now he's suddenly like a teenager who weighs 200 pounds.
Yeah, and who can rip your head off.
Yeah, who's 10 times more powerful than a human and is saying pull, tickle.
Oh boy.
I mean,
yeah.
So then and another thing that was interesting at the time is apparently they gave him, if you gave him photographs of chimps and humans to try to sort out who was who, he always put his photograph in with the humans.
Wow.
So he was like unaware that he was a chimp.
Poor
you know
guy.
what I mean? Yeah. And so again, in 1977, he actually ended up biting a student that was working on the project severely. And
when you say severely, what do you mean?
On the cheek.
On the cheek. And took out a piece of their cheek?
Well, it severed the. She appears in the film, and so they must have done some good work. But she said it severed some nerves in there.
Oh, Jesus!
Yeah,
this is what always happens. This is what always happens. Oh,
and she said that. At the time they were also, because Columbia was saying like, hey, maybe we need to cut some funding here.
Yeah. Yeah, a bunch of stoners in a mansion with a monkey.
Yeah, and they were
cut the funding,
but they were trying to like sign deals with Children's Television Workshop, Sesame Street.
What?
Yeah, to kind of come out like, hey, like in the movies, you know, like, hey, it's a monkey living as a human, isn't it funny? We're gonna put a camera in there and just see what he does. But this was a monkey that was like starting to assert himself.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Jesus.
And so they realized there was no way to continue this project. So they sent him back to that place in Norman, Oklahoma.
No way.
Yeah.
Jesus.
And
you deal with him.
Yeah, he had never been in a cage before. So suddenly now he thinks he's human. You know?
Right.
And so you send him back there, and it was bad. Like he was unhappy there. And then the place in Norman, Oklahoma, he did make friends with one guy who was like this Grateful Dead. In the movie, you see him, he's like this Grateful Dead fan who like used to take him out to get stoned with him.
Of course.
And and he was like, yeah, I mean, and them became friends, you know. And actually that guy, when that place closed, in I think it was 1985, they sold Nim off to like a medical experiment.
Jesus.
To like one of those places.
Jesus.
And that guy, the stoner guy, his smoking buddy,
Yeah.
is the one that kept writing letters trying to get Nim free, trying to get Nim out of there. And he eventually succeeds and gets Nim put in like this animal sanctuary down in Texas. But again, it's just this awful story of like, we took him away. He didn't know if he was human. He didn't know if he was chimp. You know, and eventually we just return him, which is what they always do with all chimpanzees, because and even the guy Herb Terrace says, you know, nobody keeps a chimp after 5 or 6 years old, because they just become too powerful. You can't do anything with them.
Well, they've done some horrible things around humans. You know, there have been some nasty, like, you know, they literally can rip people's faces off.
Right. And that's what, you know, you talk about chimpanzee attacks for example, in March 2005, there was that couple out in California, remember?
Yes.
And they had raised a chimp from a baby, a chimp named Mo, and then he got too big or he attacked somebody, so they had to send him out to some chimp sanctuary outside of LA. And so they had gone out there with a birthday cake to celebrate Mo's birthday. And 2 other chimps got out and saw Mo with that birthday cake and like just flipped out. And those 2 chimps, they were jealous and they went and they attacked the couple. And the husband lost all of his fingers, an eye, part of his nose.
My God.
Cheek and lips, part of his buttocks. They like ripped off his buttock.
God, they just Oh my God.
Yeah. And those
lips.
They always go for the face. It's really weird.
Because well, it makes kind of sense, you know. It's like, you know, you can rip it off and get in there and oh my God.
Yeah. And in an article that was written about that incident, Deborah Fouts, who's the director of the Chimp and Human Communication Institute at Central Washington University, she says, quote, "Chimpanzees have a real sense of right and wrong and fairness and unfairness. It sounds like people were showering a lot of attention on Mo with the birthday cake and the like, and perhaps the other chimps were jealous of Mo."
Yeah, proving back to bedtime for Bonzo. They do have a sense of right and wrong, and they'll rip your fucking face off if you don't give everybody a cake.
It's like, God. Are you going to share that, Mo, or not? You know,
so we have our answer. We have our answer. Turns out that it upsets them when it's unfair.
Yeah, but you nailed it right there. It's like, yes, they do have a sense of right and wrong, but it's a chimp sense of right and wrong.
Yeah. Right.
It's not our sense of right and wrong.
Slightly different. They're not going to return the diamond necklace to the jewelry store. They're going to rip your lips off.
Yeah, it's just awful. I looked through I read so many articles on chimp attacks, and they're just
always
awful.
The face. It's always the face. Yeah. They always go for the face. And they
do
horrible things. It's just terrible.
They're just it's just part of them. Like, we're 98.8% genetically the same.
Yeah.
But that 1.2% is what kind of leads us to kind of say,
big
like,
deal. The big deal, that 1.2.
Yeah, exactly. And it's led us to where we are. So, we're genetically similar, but we're not the same. And I think it's horrible when and to me, ethically, I think to try to raise chimps as humans, or even to abuse, and we're not even talking about the abuse that chimps get, like we say, when you're trying to vaccine research and things like that, or being shocked.
Which is just horrible. You see some of those. Don't Google that stuff.
Yeah.
Dear listener, don't do it.
Yeah. But it's just like, we have an obligation. I don't know, or like morally or ethically, we have to take responsibility and say, like, hey, maybe that's not all right. Maybe we should just let them be chimps. You know what I mean?
Let's not shoot them up into space. Let's not put wires in their brains. Let's not make them live with a bunch of hippies on a mansion.
Right. Or even like the best case scenario, like Bubbles. Bubbles had his own bodyguard and was like flying around.
Bubbles.
And like slept in the same bedroom with Michael Jackson. But even still, when Bubbles got to be like 5. He was too like you couldn't have him in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, we can't have him around.
Yeah. I just read where he turned like 40 and he had his birthday party, but they were saying that the Michael Jackson's estate still pays money to like maintain Bubbles.
Wow. Yeah. Well, that's the least they can do after what they did to him. Jesus.
He was probably smart enough to be like, man, there's something wrong.
Yeah.
There's something wrong with this place. Just get me out of here.
Yeah.
So, John, I will say, though, reading about all this sign language and language acquisition reminds me of, remember when we first got to France after we'd been hitchhiking and you went into town on your own?
Yes, I did.
Tried to get shampoo.
I needed some shampoo, and I walked into a hair salon in Calais, and I touched my hair, and I said, shampoo, hair. And the guy, rubbed my hair, and he thought for a second. He went and got me a little tiny bottle, and I think I paid $35 for it. I paid all the money you and I had. But I think I brought back 2 bottles of wine too, didn't I?
Yeah.
Didn't I get some wine? Or did you get the wine?
I thought you would, after you went to get the wine, you realized you went into a supermarket.
Yeah.
And you realized you had been ripped off.
Yeah.
Like all of our money had gone.
And I went back and I got the money back. That's right. I went back pissed off.
And you had to mime it again. You had to mime again that you
And keep in mind, I had super long hair. I was filthy. I'd been sleeping on the, quote unquote, hitchhiking from London, which meant we walked basically to Calais. We woke up that morning with a big pool of vomit that I'm guessing came out of one of us. Oh God.
I always like, if you had come back and said like, hey, I just spent our last $35, but look what I got. It was this tiny little bottle of shampoo.
You would have killed me. You would have ripped my face off.
I'd be like those guys with the cake. I'd be like, what are you doing? Like chimpanzee would have come out. Yeah.
And then I washed my hair in the channel. Didn't we get in the channel? I remember standing in the channel.
Yeah, possibly. Jesus. I don't remember. It was awful. It was
awful. Terrible.
But that brought me back that you could communicate.
I could communicate. Yes, I found a way. And the way I got him to pay it back is I threw my own poo at him until he gave me a refund.
International.
Yep.
I was also surprised that they said Nim used to sign, if he wanted the joint, if he wanted them to pass a joint to him, it would be like, Stone Smoke Now. Those were the 3 signs he would pass.
That's the same thing I would say.
Smoke. Stone Smoke Now.
Stone Smoke Now. No, pass near the bong.
They actually put, he was in High Times magazine. They actually did a story on it about like, hey man,
look,
check out this chimp. He's cool. You know?
Oh man.
So, yeah, it's awful. It's awful. All right, John.
Wow. So you took us down an interesting road here. Really fascinating. And I'm glad I went on this journey with you.
Yeah. Check out the movie. Check out the movie.
Yeah. I might check that out tonight, actually.
Yeah.
Well, this is human number 2, a primate, but not a chimpanzee.
Right.
Signing off.
And this is human number 1. Thank you for joining us, everyone. I hope you enjoyed today's podcast and maybe learned a little something about the importance of 1.2% DNA. And if you did, please tell a friend about it and be sure to check out our Facebook and our Instagram pages.
Take care, everybody. Oh my God, that was a good one.
Thank you for everything.
Nightmare from this one, I think.
Thanks, everybody. We love you. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.